Hey, you guys, are you getting excited about the class yet? I know I am. I have canned over 100 jars of food in tutorials in this class, and we cover so many amazing things. It's really exciting. I can't wait to see you guys there. So today we're going to be talking about the question that you guys are emailing me constantly right now, which is, what do I need to buy to be prepared for the class? Some of you are asking specifically about the pressure canners, which pressure canners. Others of you are asking, do I need a pressure canner? So right now I want to go over the things that you can buy to be prepared for canning food and for the upcoming class. Now, first of all, let's talk about whether you need a pressure canner. So in the class, I show you a whole lot of foods that you can make in a water bath canner. A water bath canner is essentially a big pot. You can use a stock pot. If you have a stock pot in your home, it needs to have a lid on it. It does not have to be a tight-fitting lid. This is a standard water bath canner. And it doesn't have to have a tight-fitting lid, but it does need to have some sort of a lid. Now, the thing to do to check if your stock pot will work for a water bath canner is to get the largest size jar you think you're going to can in, whether that's a pint jar or a quart jar. Put it into your canner and make sure you have room for 1 inch of water above that to boil, which means you'll need additional space above it so it doesn't boil right over, because it's going to need to stay at a rolling boil for some amount of time, whether that's 15 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on what it is that you're canning. So that would be the really important thing. Now, whatever you use for a water bath canner must have some way of keeping your jars off the bottom of the canner. They will break if they're sitting on the bottom of the canner, period. They absolutely will. No real ifs about that. This could be a rack like this. This is my favorite kind of rack. Okay, so it could be a rack like that, and you can get these as standalone items on Amazon or anywhere. You can find these in all different sizes, so make sure it'll fit into your canner. Here's a more standard canning rack. It can sit on the sides of your pot. This is, of course, formulated just for an actual water bath canner. It can sit on there and be lowered in. Now, some people really like these. I tend to find that they're fussy because I'm always fighting with the handles falling in. So this is not my preference. So those are the things you have to consider if you're going to use a stock pot as your water bath canner, which you can do very safely. I wouldn't recommend it for a long-term solution, but if you don't have a rack and you're wanting to get started right away, you can put some dish towels down at the bottom of your canner and set the jars on there. It'll be in water, and I feel like it's very fussy to work with it that way. You're always having to fuss with it, make sure it's flat, because of course the canner is round or the pot is round and the towel is rectangular. So it is a little bit fussy, but you can do that if you're in a pickle, you're in a bind, and you want to get started right away with just a pot. Make sure it's a couple layers thick to really give a little padding to those jars as they bounce up and down as they're boiling. Okay, so regardless of what kind of canning you're doing, you of course need your jars, your lids, and your rings. You'll also need all your regular kitchen supplies, measuring cups, and things that I'm going to assume that you have on hand. And you'll want a supply of clean dishcloths and kitchen towels. You will want a funnel. You can use one of the plastic ones. Make sure that it is a wide mouth funnel. These will fit in a wide mouth or a regular size canning jar. And this is really instrumental. You really need these. The other thing that you just have to have, do not try to can without it, is a pair of jar lifters. Not having these on hand it almost guarantees that you're either going to get burnt or you're going to break a jar. And I know, I have tried it. I've tried it multiple times, and in fact I've had some of the cheaper ones, like these are the pretty standard ones that you find, and they work really well. But I have had them, after using them for multiple years in a row, break on me in the middle of a canning project and not had a backup pair. And so I've tried using tongs, I've tried all sorts of things. it never works out right. So just make sure you have one. And now I never go without at least 2, if not 3 sets in the house, just in case I either can't find one or one breaks on me in the process. So I really recommend having one and having a backup. And I'll have links to all of these things for you guys so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so now let's get to the heart of what so many of you guys are asking me, and it's about the pressure canner. Number 1, can I use my Instapot as a pressure canner? No, you can't. That is not safe for the simple reason that Instapots and any other electric pressure cooking device is not calibrated to a proper pressure. That doesn't really matter as long as you're in the ballpark. It doesn't matter for your chicken or for your roast. It matters very much for your pressure can foods. If you're off by 2 to 3 pounds of pressure on your pressure can foods, that can make a food completely unsafe and in fact very dangerous because it could not kill off the botulism spores. You need a pressure canner that is just that, a pressure canner. It needs to be able to either be calibrated or have a mechanism for checking the pressure. Now, there are multiple types out there. You can get dial gauges or weighted gauges, weighted gauge pressure canners. And you can get metal to metal seals, or you can get kinds with the rubber gaskets. I highly, 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 strongly as I can say this, recommend an all-American canner. Now that's not to say that other canners won't work, but let me tell you about why I recommend this. And I'm not associated with their brand or anything like that, but I have had both kinds of pressure canners. Over the years, I've had multiple pressure canners. I now own 2 All-Americans, one great big one that I can can 19 quart jars at a time. You want to talk about efficient, that is the way to go. And I have the smaller one that can do smaller batches. This is actually, I almost always exclusively use my giant one, even for small batches. But this is nice to have on hand too for days where I want multiple pressure canners going. So the reasons that I really prefer this is that on a rubber gasket canner, there is a rubber gasket that goes all the way around here, and that can fail and it needs to be replaced every few years. It's not hard to replace it, and it's usually not too expensive, but it is something that you need to maintain. One of the things I don't like about it is they don't sit in storage well because they're rubber. So regardless of if they're sitting on your canner or they're in storage, that rubber is going to start to break down. So you can't just store a bunch of extras to have them on hand. So I really prefer just bypassing that altogether and having this metal to metal seal that does not need any upkeep besides keeping it clean and a quick greasing on the inside rim just to help with that seal. The other thing that I really prefer about this is that while it has a gauge on it, it is a weighted gauge canner. Now, I'm going to be explaining all of this in the class in great detail, so I'm just going to touch on it really quickly here. A weighted gauge canner means that the measuring of the pressure is happening because of a simple physics move. The amount of steam that can come out of here can move a hole that's built into a weight once it hits a certain amount of pressure. It's a very simple physics theory here. So that means nothing is going to be changed on this. If you bonk this, or if your pressure canner sits in storage for 5 years or 1 year or anything like that, this is going to remain true to the proper amount of pressure and never need maintenance. However, if you're working with a pressure canner that is only a gauge canner, a dial gauge, that means it only has this part and that's how you tell its pressure, you must get that calibrated by taking it into a local office and testing it. You're supposed to do that every year, and you're supposed to do it with a brand new canner. The reason for that is that a dial gauge has a tendency to go faulty. At some point, this is going to fail. And if you don't know if you're canning at the proper pressure or not, you can potentially be creating dangerous foods or overcooked foods because you're not canning at the proper pressure. So this is really important. Now, I've known brand new dial gauge pressure canners to come out of the box, brand new, completely brand new, and be more than 3 pounds of pressure off. That means you have to take it into a local office. You have to find that at your county extension office, your agricultural extension office. A lot of times they will test your gauge. Sometimes that means, I know in our area, that can mean a 4 to 5 hour drive to get you to your local gauge checking station. Now, if you live in a really populated area, you might have more of county extension offices around, but you might not. You cannot mail them in to be checked for the reason that in the mailing, they're likely to get bonked and things are going to change in that. So when they were being mailed back to you, they could get further off than they were when they were mailed in and it was tested. This can be anywhere from free, some county extension offices offer this service for free, to $20, and it needs to be performed at least once a year in order to ensure that you have a safe dial gauge and that you're canning safely. And they do need to be replaced every so many years once they get off so much. For this reason, I feel like it is worth it to me to not have to ever mess with that process and go with a weighted gauge that never needs to be calibrated. For all those reasons combined, I love my All-American pressure canner. It's heavy duty, it's gonna last me for generations. I never have to calibrate it. I'm never gonna have to change any parts on it. And it's just ready to go when I need it. I really, really like that. Now, a lot of you guys have asked me about the size that you should get at the pressure canner, and to that I'm gonna say, if you're serious about canning food for your family, get the largest canner you can possibly afford, even if it means stretching out. And I guarantee that if you're doing convenience foods, you are going to save that money back off your grocery bill really quickly. Buying frozen pizzas or running out to fast food because you need a quick convenience food is incredibly more expensive than creating your own convenience foods and having them waiting for you on your shelf by using your pressure canner. So I really, really recommend that you buy the biggest pressure canner you can get. Now, the largest one that I have is expensive. The one that holds 19 quart jars, I think it's nearly $500 brand new right now. That is really expensive. But I've got to say that canner has saved us thousands and thousands of dollars over the last several years on our grocery bill just because I can do one huge batch, which means I'm more likely to get it done. In the same amount of time, I can can 7 quarts of beans in this. For about 10 minutes more work, I can can 19 quarts of beans in that. So you can see the huge amount of time savings that happens, which means I end up with more convenience food on my shelf, which means that I end up saving more money for the same amount of work. So I really encourage you go with the largest pressure canner you can feasibly afford. Get an All-American pressure canner. And if you're serious about canning for your family, you are never going to be sad that you did that. You're always going to be thankful that you got the biggest one that you can get. Okay, you guys, so exciting. We're getting really, really close. Oh, let's see. I wanted to tell you some of the things that I've been putting in the class. Barbecued pulled pork. I just did the tutorial on that. Oh my goodness. We are having that on fresh rolls with coleslaw for dinner tonight for a pulled pork sandwich. That stuff is so good. We did a enchilada chicken soup the other day. We did a vegetarian stew. We did, oh my God, we've been canning so much. We did a goulash. Isn't that amazing? That makes for super quick stuffed zucchinis. or goulash over noodles. So many amazing things are coming up in this class. I've got over 20 step-by-step tutorials in addition to the learning lessons that teach you how to do it. I've got over 20 step-by-step tutorials for you. So this is just amazing. So much going on. I can't wait to share this class with you. So keep that August 12th date marked on your calendar. Get your supplies ready and we'll see you there.